Hi. Okay, so I just got back from a week-long holiday, and one thing that taking time off does for me is I just get a lot of thoughts. Like I instantly get more creative when I have free time. And it's part of why I hate having a busy schedule is because I genuinely feel like I don't get enough time to think and reflect. So here are some random thoughts that I had while on holiday. So the first one was that I heard this line that goes like, strict parents make sneaky kids, and that could not be more true for me. I feel like I'm still trying to outgrow my sneakiness, like my reflex to be sneaky or to like not be direct because I grew up in an environment where my parents were so strict. And I know that being strict is relative. I've had friends who had stricter parents who basically had to check in with them every single day. Even if they lived far away, they'd have to have like a video call type of strict, and strict with like the parents dictating what they wear, what they do, who they hang out with, that kind of thing. With mine, it was more, they were strict about like curfew and about hanging out with boys, and like it was a religious upbringing in a religious household. I know not as extreme as some, but generally I felt like I had to go around them a lot. Like I basically went out the house on prom night with a dress that my parents thought I wore and then changed it up. Like, and that's just one example, but I felt like I had to do a lot of that growing up in order to have like some semblance of autonomy and freedom. And yeah, I had to do a lot of that, which is not ideal. And then this other one was like about maladaptive dreaming, which is something I do a lot, like daydreaming. And I started to think about how sometimes you daydream a little too hard and all of a sudden you feel like anxious about your life, which is just crazy. Um, I shouldn't say crazy because it's probably something that people struggle with a lot, but I just thought that idea was kind of interesting that you could come up with this whole scenario and like play it out in your mind, and then it feels so real and vivid, and then you kind of maladaptive dream a little too hard. And it got me thinking that the next time I start doing that, I'm gonna write out what I'm daydreaming about and turn it into a story. The problem is it's so fleeting. Like now I'm trying to think back on the story that, or like the daydream that I got this idea after, and I can't remember it for shit. And so it's like, it's kind of intense, but maybe if I write it down right after, I'm not sure. The other one was, you know how there are all these trends like face reveal or like whatever. I kind of started to think about why there isn't a double chin reveal, because everyone has one and we're all like now it took me like a couple minutes to figure out my angles because it was mainly my double chin that was getting in the way. And not everyone has one, I'm sure many people don't, but many of us do. And I feel like there isn't enough double chin representation in media or on my timeline. And so I posted a double chin reveal because I thought that would be fun. The other thought I had was about casual racism towards Arabs and Muslims. I feel like there is no racism that is as casual as the one towards Arabs and Muslims. Like it's so casual. Like it's something that you can get away with so easily through like your jokes, your passing comments, or even violence in some cases is like, I would go as far as like something people can justify. And it's extremely hurtful, but I just realized that like most of the like people that I admire have probably said something even in passing that was so casually racist, and it's infuriating. But I think one day with the right momentum, and I feel like we're garnering some of it now, it will stop and it will subside. But generally, it's really, really rough. And then I thought about this idea of belonging and like the sense of belonging and how it is the most powerful emotion and powerful state, because when I think about it, like all the times I was deeply hurt by a comment or by a situation, part of the reason why I felt so hurt is because it infringed on my right to belong, and I felt like that right was like trampled upon by that situation. And I feel like a lot of like loneliness stems from this idea that you don't belong, unhappiness, your quality of life, and like so many emotions are baked into that idea of belonging. And so I felt like that is something that can really make or break an experience or an interaction. And so I think that part of my purpose is to help people feel like they belong, or just to make sure I'm never trampling on someone's right to belong, because I felt it so many times that I know how deeply hurtful it is. And then a sort of connected thought to that was around projection, and how every single time I felt like someone hurt me in a way that was like totally random and like unprovoked, and like just felt like it came out of the blue, usually it's due to projection. So I can literally take the comment that they made and like flip it upside down, and it will reveal an insecurity that they have. Like maybe they want to be part of an in-group, or like a I don't know, like a lifestyle or something, and they felt rejected by it, and so they reject the person. And I don't know how to explain it super eloquently, but it's something in that neighborhood of like every time it's unprovoked. Like fine, there are like when someone gives you feedback or criticism or a comment, like I usually try to pause and wonder if there's some truth to it. Even if there's some truth to it, it can still be hurtful. But in cases where I felt like it was so unprovoked and unnecessary, oftentimes it'll feel like like there's more to it. Like there's some sort of situational, contextual reason for it, and like maybe even a material condition that led to it, and it's like kind of makes me feel more understanding and sometimes sorry for the person, because it's so dark and it almost feels like it was a subconscious reaction. Like maybe they don't even realize they're hurting you this much because it's so built in. And then I heard this thing about how if everyone agrees, it's not a political statement. So if like, and by everyone, I think it's like mainstream media or like the general status quo, if they're all in that direction about a statement or like a movement, then it's not political to stand by them, because you'll generally not find many people vocal about the other side. And so that kind of made me think about how like that divide becomes very clear about certain issues. And it also shows how truly difficult it is to stand for certain issues today, just because the political nature is inherent by the fact that if the general public does not agree with your POV, or like there isn't much momentum for it. Another realization was that I love to giggle. Like I am so easy to giggle and laugh. Like I feel like I wear, you know how some people wear their heart on their sleeves? Like I wear my giggle on my sleeve. Like it is something that I just love to do, and I feel like it ties to the sense of belonging, because I genuinely feel like people who try to make you laugh and smile and giggle, like they create that environment of just a pleasant environment. And so I want to be part of that. Another thing I realized is that I developed a self-promotion allergy. I previously found it very uncomfortable to self-promote, and it's gotten so bad that I avoid LinkedIn. Like, I find it really difficult to hop on there, and like I just find it like a self-promotion nightmare. And there's a lot of that there, and I feel like that's just not me. I think it's because I felt like a bit of a fraud when I did it, and I felt like every time I did it, I was like branded as something that I didn't like. It didn't resonate with me anymore. So this idea of like woman who's helping other women get digital skills, woman who does XYZ, like I didn't like that anymore, and I felt like it didn't resonate with who I am on the inside, and it didn't feel authentic. And so now I'm struggling with self-promotion. Like, it's something that I don't feel totally comfortable about, because I don't feel like I'm being totally authentic. Then another thought I had was about how peeling your nail polish, like the urge to peel your nail polish, is one of the most intrusive thoughts probably ever. I just can't help it. The other is about Middle Eastern representation in reality TV. So first we had Leia on Love Island, and then we had Maria on Love is Blind, almost back to back. And it was just so great. Like, they're both proudly Middle Eastern. Like, they talk about their Middle Eastern heritage openly and where they're from. And especially in Love is Blind, I felt like it was more central to the plot. And I really loved that. I feel like we should have more Middle Eastern representation. The other was about how you never have a 3-course breakfast. Like, that's not something you hear about commonly. And probably because you'll feel so drained throughout the day. Like, instead of giving you fuel, you'll be so tired. But I made myself a 3-course breakfast this one day, where I had a course of I had eggs and cheese, and then I had some yogurt and fruits, and then I also had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and also a slice of toast with cheese at some point before that. And so it felt like a 3-course meal, because it felt like I was having 3 very different dishes. And it was so good at the time, but then I felt so drained afterwards. So that's probably why you never hear about a 3-course breakfast. And then I talked about how there's like, you know how they always say there's 2 types of people, X and Y. So I thought of a few, and one of them is there's 2 types of people, the stop and smell the roses type, and the complete opposite of that. And I'm the complete opposite of that. Like, whenever I have things to do, I'm on a mission to do them, and I'll always find the easiest way to do them. Like, I'll research beforehand to figure out the situation. Like, should I pre-book? Should I get tickets? Should I don't know, like, I'll be on Reddit looking up, if it's a process, like looking up how to do it, and I'll be laser focused on it. But then sometimes you're in the company of someone that's clearly a stop and smell the roses type, and that will involve a lot of like waiting around for them to do that, or trying to rush them to do that. And it is a very clear and visible divide. Like, it is plain as day. And then another type, like 2 types of people, is people who eat their fries while eating their burger, and people who finish the burger and then eat their fries. I'm definitely the former. Like, I'm a multitasker. I'll take a bite out of my burger, a bite of fries. I feel like it makes the flavor like more light and diverse. And so I am definitely that type of person. The other one I thought of is how when you're down bad for someone, you need to figure out their one thing. Like, what is that one thing that will make them a human? Because there's always this idea in your head that they're like this kind of subhuman, like can do no wrong. And it can be like a trait or like a tendency or a mannerism that will just pop that bubble, and you desperately need to find it, because otherwise you're just in la la land and you think they're God's gift to earth, and that's just not the case. Like, they're a human being, and they have that one thing, and you need to figure out that one thing, and like make it your mission to figure out that one thing and pop that, like burst that bubble, because otherwise it'll just feel very delusional. I had a manager that would tell me, like, whenever I'm nervous before a meeting or anxious about something, like meeting someone more senior, he would just say like she or he or they or whatever is a human being, and he will specifically say that they poop and fart and have diarrhea just like you and me. And for some reason that always made me laugh, and it's true, they're a human being. And so yeah. The other thought I had was while taking a hike, and I was very miserable. It was like a 400 step hike going up a mountain, and it was so hot. But anyway, I started to think about how that expression, take a hike, is like used as, it's used as like in a derogatory way, like as an insult or something. And I totally got it. Like I got what it means, and it clicked, because taking a hike is miserable. It's absolutely miserable. There's nothing good about it. Unless it's like leveled ground, then fine. But going upwards was horrible. There is one more, but I have no idea what I wrote. I have no idea. But anyway, I think that's more than enough. But yeah, in general, I feel like taking time off, like, it really made me reflect on a lot of things. And I'd like to say I was productive, but I wasn't. But I did feel more creative. Like, I feel like, oh, like when you're outside and this is nothing revolutionary, but when you're outside and you're like people watching or like experiencing things, thoughts just flow out of you. And now I'm back to my routine, which is a lot of working from home and being alone and just being like a pixel on the screen. And I feel like I want to make room for more experiences and have more energy in general and feel more like alive, because I genuinely feel like my 20s, they were a blur. Like, I don't know what I was doing. Like, yes, there were key milestones, but I wasn't really living. Like, I was very, very depressed. I put on a lot of weight, and I really like retreated inwards. Like, I didn't want to hang out with anyone. I had no energy. I was extremely anxious, and don't get me wrong, I still get anxious. Like, I got anxious during the trip. There was one day where I felt so anxious, and we went to this beautiful place, and I just sat in a corner, and I just like overthought this one email that I sent while working, because I felt so much anxiety, like extremely horrible. And yeah, I really struggled with that. And it's always the case, like 2 steps forward, one step back. Like, it's always like that. And I agree that that's part of the process, but at the same time, I felt like back then I was so hard on myself, and I was so miserable, and I was so withdrawn from life. Like, I did the absolute bare minimum. I didn't socialize. I didn't do any kind of activity that didn't revolve around work. And I really want to push myself to do more and, yeah, really live life. Like, I'm in my early 30s. I'm approaching my mid 30s, I should say. Like, I'm close to that. And back in my 20s, I was so in a hurry to like get married, start a family, and I don't know if it was hormonal or part of it was like this type A thing where I needed to check the box. But now I have this intuition that things will work out. Like, despite it being probably like it gets 1,000 times harder to start a family the more you wait, like physically speaking, biologically speaking. But I just have this like intuition that things will work out, and I'll figure it out. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. but yeah, I genuinely feel like I lost my youth, and like I wasted it, or part of it at least, because I'm still young. But I'm trying to fight this feeling of bitterness that like your youth is priceless and you just wasted it being depressed. Like, it's just so sad to think about, and I'm trying to fight that urge to be bitter about it and just to be like, okay, look at what you have left. Like, you're still in your early 30s. Even if you reach the mid 30s, that's still young. I don't know how I'll feel when I reach the late 30s. I know I'll probably like condition myself into thinking that that's also young. That's plenty of time. But I don't know, just this idea of growing up and aging is really fucking me up. Like, I immediately, whenever I come across someone, I'll look up their age, and I feel like there's two categories. There's like people who are older, people who are younger, and like a few people that are my age. And by that I mean like just like 1 or 2 years um maybe older or the same age. And it makes me feel like comfort when someone's older than me, and I feel like, oh, okay, I still have time to figure my shit out. But when someone's younger than me and they're like doing well, I just go like, what was I doing when I was their age? And I have these like, I hate to say it, but almost like resentful feelings towards myself. But yeah, I'm really trying to figure that out and be more positive, but it weighs on me a lot, and it's really getting to me. Like, it really irks me. But anyway, I'm sure I'll figure it out. For now, I just want to focus on being present, and as cheesy as it sounds, just like actually living life, like experiencing things and having fun. And anyway, that is all.